Today I'm testing out the flip section styling method from Sophie Marie. If you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Gina and here we talk all things naturally curly hair. I love simplifying things for beginners, talking about product ingredients, and helping you problem solve with your curls so that everyone can achieve healthy hair. So today I wanted to try out another creator's hair routine. It's called the flip section method and it was created by SophieMarieCurly on Instagram, and she also just started her YouTube channel as well. So I'm going to have everything linked down below, and she has a full curly hair routine video up on her channel that shows you how to do this method from start to finish. So definitely check out her video as well. And she mentioned how it's supposed to give you really defined curls a lot quicker, and then it also gives you volume as well. So this routine is very different from my typical styling routine, but yet it gives you similar results to what I usually go for, which is definition and volume. So let's go ahead and get started with the styling routine. So I have Sophie's video up here on my phone and I'm just going to be following along step by step and doing her exact routine. So I'm first spraying down my hair with some water. I've already clarified today. I did a treatment, deep condition, all the things, and so I'm just re-wetting my hair because it's starting to dry. And she did mention that she likes to style her hair wet. So today I'm going to be using the Bounce Curl Avocado and Rose Oil Clump and Define Cream. She actually first used a leave-in conditioner and then a curl cream, but I don't find that I need both, so I'm just going right in with the curl cream. I'm using different products than her, but that shouldn't make a difference here because it's really about the styling technique. So then I'm brushing that product through, which is also what she did. So she applied a leave-in and then detangled her hair, and then she applied a cream once her hair was sectioned. And then I flipped upside down and started to pull all my hair forward. So she also does this part after the leave-in just so her hair has enough slip in it, and then I'm going to actually brush it through. So then she kind of shook out the roots with her hand so that way she could more easily create the sections. So there's 3 sections in this method, and the first one is the back of the head. So it's a little bit tricky to figure out where exactly to section your hair, but just try and envision your head split into thirds. So I went right around my ear, and she mentioned that you just want your fingers to actually meet together, so then you know that you have a straight line. So just focus on your index fingers meeting in the middle. And you want to make sure that when you are clipping up these sections that you're keeping the clip away from the other section, because we're going to be brush styling and you don't want to accidentally grab any of those hairs with the brush in the other section. So then you can see the middle section where that is, and I'm just making sure to place the clip a little bit further back and make sure it's snug so that way it doesn't get caught in the other section. So I already have cream in my hair, so she applies cream first, then does brush styling, then applies gel. So I'm just combing all of that forward. So you want to create that tension on your hair with the brush. So you want the hair to actually wrap around the edge of the brush, and that's what actually creates the curl clumps. So you can try both directions. If your curls are not clumping together, then you might need to add some more water. So that's what I did here to just help them clump a little bit better. And then after clumping the hair together, then you want to take a wide tooth comb and just separate some of those clumps. This is obviously optional, but I like more separated curl clumps because my hair is low density, so I want that volume. So then she kind of just shakes it out and then goes in with gel. So I'm using the Kinky Curly Original Curling Custard, and she scrunches that gel in. So this is very different from the way I typically style. I normally like to apply both of my products first, so both cream and gel, and then brush style because I get more even coverage. So I found it a little bit awkward trying to make sure that I covered my entire area of my head with gel without disturbing the curl clump. So I just tried to smooth a little bit at the roots and then also did some scrunching. So another thing that I noticed is my curls were not curling up as much when I brush styled them all at once. So by doing that whole section at once, you're counting on all of those curls to go in the same direction, but my curls actually go in opposite directions on both sides. So I noticed that only one side was curling up good because the other side needed to be brushed in the other direction. So you never know which way your curls go. Sometimes it's hard to tell. So now moving on to the second section, and you're supposed to use your hand as the divider so that way you don't pick up any other hairs when you're brush styling. So I went from the underside again with this section and then just applied that tension to the hair, combed it through, and then I used the wide tooth comb to then separate the clumps. But again, I didn't have a ton of clumps here, but I still used that comb to just create a more separated look. But my curls were just not looking as uniform as hers, but hers are probably a little bit tighter than mine anyways, but it did help after I scrunched it. Then I just smoothed the gel over, and here's when I kind of had a little bit of a hard time applying the gel because I'd already applied gel to the first section, so I was kind of unsure of how to just get the gel on this middle section, so I tried to kind of rope it in and then scrunch again. But then I kind of felt like I was applying extra gel to the front once I scrunched everything together because I still had some gel on my hands, but I got it all in. So now we're moving on to the last section, which is the back section. This section's actually pretty large. It was starting to dry a little bit, so I did wet it back down, but I almost wish that I had done 2 sections here, and I'll show you why in a minute, because I felt like my roots were starting to get stretched out at the bottom. So I just combed everything the same way from underneath, and then I went back over it with my wide tooth comb to separate those curl clumps. And then after each section, she usually shakes it, which just helps to separate the clumps and help them spring back up. And then I went in with the gel, and this was definitely difficult to only get the gel in this section, so I kind of just glazed it over the back and then kind of roped it in just this section, and then I just scrunched all over. I probably should have done 2 sections here, and then it would have gotten more evenly coated. And I also kind of felt like it was stretching out the roots around the nape of my neck. So by combing everything forward, you end up with these stretched out roots in the back. So if that's something that you struggle with in your upside down styling, then I definitely recommend upright styling. It's kind of hard to make sure that you're scrunching directly at the root on the back of the head because it's all pulled forward. That's one reason that I don't love styling upside down, because you get stretched out roots and people always wonder why the roots don't curl. So then she mentioned that it's best to kind of shake out your roots a little bit to help lift the hair up off the scalp, and then she places her fingers within the back of the head or at the top before flipping it upright. So this is supposed to help it not look so wonky in the back and be stuck to the back of the scalp. I know a lot of people struggle with this. This is one reason why I don't normally style upside down, because the back ends up just stuck to the back of my head and it looks very wonky. So I tried to shake it out some more, because even with doing that, I still found that my hair was stuck to the back of my head and it just looked weird underneath. So I was trying to kind of shake it out with my hands and try to fix it. But then I ended up with like this mat underneath. It just was very matted up and looked frizzy and not clumped, because it didn't get that special attention underneath, because it was all just in the same section. So I think I just need another section back here. I think that would have probably worked better. I tried to kind of pick it out with the wide tooth comb, but I still had to just go over it and fix it underneath. So this whole section is still falling towards my face from brushing it forward. And you can also see the section lines. And I think this is because my hair is low density. So even with shaking out the roots, I could still see those lines in my hair, and it just exposed my scalp more. So anytime that I style upside down, this always happens to me, where I end up with a ton of root frizz, because I'm trying to get it to not show as much, because the hair is just pointing in the forward direction instead of straight up and back, which is how I normally do it. So I was just trying to shake out the roots, trying to make it to where the scalp wasn't showing as much. So then I'm just fixing my part, and she did mention in her video that she does create some face framing pieces when she's back upright, just to kind of touch up if any curls look wonky in the front, and then she fixes them with her brush. So I definitely wanted to do that, because I didn't want my hair falling in my face. That usually drives me crazy throughout the day. So then I just created some ringlets directly around my face the way that I normally do. So this is how I normally would do it. That way it's not pointing directly down into my face. So you can see how much better my clumps and ringlets are forming when I do it this way, because I'm able to go in the right direction. So I just did this on a few pieces in the front where I knew that they were definitely trying to point in the wrong direction, and so I got them fixed. That way the front pieces wouldn't look too wonky. I was still struggling with the underside layer too. It just wasn't curling upright, so I was trying to fix that by adding a little bit more water. It was just very matted and tangled underneath from trying to flip it back upright. So then I just scrunched it directly underneath to try and help it curl up better. So then I was just trying to cover my scalp a little bit better right around the crown area where I struggle with that. So I was just taking the wide tooth comb and doing that to help cover the scalp, and then scrunching directly at the crown as well. So then I wanted to scrunch out some of the excess water with my hair repair towel. This is not a step that she did. She just went straight to diffusing, but for my hair personally, I have to get rid of some of that water in my hair before I diffuse, or else it's just going to take forever. So here's how it looked after it was completely done and ready to diffuse. I can still see my scalp quite a bit, but I did really like how the top section looked. I like how I didn't really have a super defined part, and it definitely had some lift right at the crown. I'm glad that I did create a little bit of a part though in the front, just so it would not fall in my face as bad. So now I'm ready to diffuse. I'm using my Shark Hyper Air with the IQ Curl Defining Diffuser, and I'm doing her exact diffusing technique where she first hover diffuses her roots. That way she can start to dry her hair at the roots first instead of starting on the ends, because then the ends can dry out. So I totally understand this method. If you've seen my styling routines, I typically will plop when I do this. So I plop my hair on the counter just so I can start that shrinkage process, because my curls will start to dry on the ends and dry a little bit wonky even when I'm focusing the air on the roots. And I also flipped from side to side just as she did. That way you can get more of that movement. Then I was glad to see that she also does some scrunch diffusing as well, which is just where you gather all the hair into the diffuser and then press it up towards your scalp. And this really helps with curl definition. It helps encourage shrinkage. So I also do this in the upright position. I have to do this on the underside layer especially, or else it will dry a lot straighter than the rest of my hair. It's just a looser curl pattern underneath. So I'm not sure if she does this step, but I always like to take the prongs of my diffuser and put them right at the root around my part area and then give it a lift, because this really helps lift your roots up. So after 20 minutes, my hair was still not completely dry. And if you guys have seen my diffusing videos, you know that it normally takes me anywhere from like 11 to 15 minutes to diffuse my hair. And that's because of the wet styling. So that's another reason why I usually go with damp styling, because it takes so long to diffuse my hair. So I was already diffusing at 20 minutes and I had to keep hitting the cold shot button because the shark dryer will get too hot if you're diffusing for too long. I definitely noticed that once I got past like the 10 to 13 minute mark, I had to start using the cold shot button. So now that I'm done diffusing, I'm going to be taking some of the Curlsmith bonding oil and using this to seal my hair and also help scrunch out the crunch. This is what Sophie usually does. She said she usually seals with an oil. So I definitely had a lot more root frizz after I scrunched out the crunch. I think some of these hairs are actually supposed to go on the other side of my hair, so I just flipped them over. So if you ever notice that some of your curls are looking frizzy or they're just not grouping into other curls, then they might go in the other side. Our curls definitely have curl families, so hairs that are next to each other tend to clump together. And so if it's not, then maybe it goes on the other side. So once I flipped it over, I just kind of wet my hands and smoothed it on the other side and it clumped perfectly. So we are finally done, and these are my final results. I have a ton of definition, lots of really great clumps. Everything ended up being even after all. I'm glad I made those little tweaks to kind of touch up. Really like my results. So here are my final results. I do have a lot more frizz this time around, and I think that's just with that upside down styling. It's a little bit harder to really fine-tune the frizz right at your root and on the top section of your hair when you are styling your hair upside down, because you can't really see. So I do probably have more defined ringlets overall, but the root volume is pretty good. But it's just like, I don't have that fullness, I guess, because there's more clumps going on. I did really like using that comb. I definitely am going to take that tip away from this routine and incorporate it in my routine, because I think that was a great way to still maintain that curl clump and that ringlet or that spiral shape, but then separate it. So now I wanted to share who I think this routine would be great for, and then also who I think this might not work the best for. So I think if you have low to medium density hair, this would definitely work. I'm not sure exactly what hair type that Sophie Marie has, but I assume it's probably medium density hair, although I did hear her mention that she does struggle with her scalp showing in the back and stuff, which is something I deal with as well with having low density hair. But to me, it looked like she had medium density hair. She got really great volume, so I think that that would work best. Whereas if you had very thick curly hair, I think it might be a little bit harder to brush style an entire section all at once. I think you would definitely need to create more sections, which could then just take more time. I think length also plays a big role here. I think if you have short to medium hair, this will be great. Whereas if you had very long hair, I could see it being kind of hard to comb your hair in that direction. I feel like you would have to really extend your arm. So I don't know. If you have any neck trouble or back pain, I don't think this would be right for you, because it's definitely a fully upside down routine. I think she also mentioned that in her video, that if you do struggle with that, then this routine is not for you. I think if you also really struggle with shedding or breakage, then you would want to avoid upside down styling. Now you could definitely still incorporate some of these techniques, but I personally find that whenever I style upside down, I lose so much more hair, and I think that's just from combing the hair in one direction and then getting back upright or then going back in the other direction. I think that just causes too much tension on the follicle, and that can lead to more shedding. I had way more shedding in my brush when I did this method, and I've noticed that in the past whenever I've tried upside down styling, I lose so much more hair. So let's talk about some ways that I would personally tweak this to make it work better for me. So first of all, I would definitely use less water in my hair. I like to damp style, and I think that that just gives me better results, so I would definitely probably use less water. And one of the biggest things that I would tweak is the direction that you're brushing your hair. So I would still try the sections, but I would instead brush the hair up and back instead of forward and like pulling it against your scalp all the way across the back. So I think I've seen that method from another creator here on YouTube. If you know who that is, let me know, but I've seen somebody do sections before and then they brush their hair straight up. instead of upside down. It's still an upright way of styling and sectioning, but you're just combing it up. I can't remember who that is. If you know who it is, let me know and I will definitely try out their whole routine. Another major thing that I would tweak is applying my cream and gel before brush styling. I always have a really hard time trying to just glaze my gel on over top of clumps that I've already formed. So I personally find it's much more beneficial to fully coat my hair in gel and then do brush styling or having lots of root frizz because I didn't fully get the gel on my hair. So I would love to hear what you guys think about my results. Do you think it looks better than my typical styling routines? I will try and find some photos of my hair with this same gel, the Kinky Curly Custard, and show you how it looks on my hair when I style with my method. I remember getting a lot more volume the last time I used it, so we'll see, we can compare how it looks. So I'm going to link you to all the products that I use in this video in the description box down below so you can check those out, and any discount codes that I have for these brands, I will definitely include those as well. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you might also really like the series that I did testing and comparing different methods side by side. One of them was damp versus wet styling. I also did one with brush styling versus no brush styling, so you can really see how each of those techniques really play a role into the results that you get. So I'll have that playlist linked here on the screen and I will talk to you over there.